Good evening, everyone. Mo Harrington here from ACR Health, and welcome to tonight's presentation for the 23rd Annual Hike for Life Wellness Summit. Tonight, I am very, very excited to welcome our presenting guest this evening, which is Always Chasing Better coach, Michelle Horton. I have had the opportunity to take some of her courses, sit and have talks with her about a variety of subjects. And I'm very excited about her whole approach, which is basically having the audacity to live your best life, which I just love that. I just love that language, Michelle. So I'm really just going to hand this over to you because I think that, beyond just being brilliant, I don't know if you need any introduction. So that's what I'm going to say.
Well, I'm flattered. Thank you. That was a great introduction. I really appreciate it. I love have the audacity. There's something about the word audacity that implies courage and a little bit of sassiness. And I think that's a good description of how I approach a lot of things. So I am going to just dive right into the presentation, and the way I work and the way that I feel most comfortable is if you have a question or if you want to pop it into the chat box, that's great. If you are watching this after we do the live version, you can send me an email. All my contact information will be available. But I really want to talk today about showing up. And when we talk about showing up, have you got can you see the screen?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So when I talk about showing up, it's really showing up as your best self, and a little bit different than just rolling out of bed and throwing some clothes on, although that's what we've been doing for the last, 15 months. But we're really talking about showing up in the world as our best selves. So that's what we're gonna focus in on today, is knowing and being our best selves. So you might have to bear with me here while I get, here we go. So again, I am Michelle Horton. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Always Chasing Better Coaching. And I'm co-founder because my wife, Ann, who is on the call, wave in, is the other co-founder. I like to think of Ann as the CEO of management and keeping Michelle in control, because I'm a big idea person and I get kind of wild and out there. But so Ann and I have formed this business together and love it. And she likes to be behind the scenes and I'm kind of the face of it and love doing it. So I always start out, whether I'm working with a one-on-one client or working in a group, I always start out with creating an open mindset. And one of the ways that we do that is just to take a couple of deep breaths. So if you wouldn't mind joining me in just taking an inhale and an exhale. I'm always surprised at how my volume lowers immediately when I take that first breath. You're probably feeling the same thing. And take another inhale. And exhale. One of the things I encourage people to do, and I do with my clients, is use affirmations as a way of reprogramming ourselves, really. We'll talk a little bit about how some of the thoughts that our inner critic presents to us on a daily basis are really brought on by our subconscious, and how that's created over time. But affirmations are a way of creating new pathways in our brain so that we start looking and thinking about ourselves in a different way. And when we start thinking about ourselves in a different way, we start showing up in a different way. And when I say show up in a different way, we're always thinking about ways that we can be better and do better. So that's what we're talking about. So these affirmations are a few that I use all the time. There is only one me. And when we say those things, when we say that to ourselves, it's really important that we think about the emotion around that and that I am enough. the reason why we think we're not enough is because we've gotten lost in the layers of conditioning that's been put on us since we were born. So these affirmations are really good ways of reframing the way we think about ourselves and kind of redirecting some of that negative energy that we all have. You can't walk through life free from any negativity, but having tools like this, like affirmations, is a really great way of reshaping some of those thoughts. So I want to talk about, when we talk about showing up as our best self, who the hell is that anyway? So this is me when I was probably about a year old, and I've never actually used this picture before. I just think I'm so damn cute, so I wanted to use it. But I'm showing you this picture because when we come into this world, perfect. As babies, as infants, we come into this world with our whole self. That's all we have. And we are completely dependent on our parents or our caregivers. And so when we think about getting to our best self, we're really talking about who we are at the core, at the center of who we are, in our heart, in our soul, whatever spirituality you bring to it. I personally feel that my best self, my authentic self, is my soul. So I will make reference to that throughout. But if you feel differently, you can apply the same ideas to whatever religion or whatever spiritual being or energy that fits your scenario. So we come into this world completely perfect. And it doesn't take long before conditioning starts to occur. So what do babies do, right? They cry. They have no way else of expressing themselves. They eat and they sleep. But at the same time, they have all these needs that need to be met. Really, a lot of needs. So what happens over the course of time is that when those needs are not immediately met, different things start to reshape how that child is viewing the world. Now, you can be the best mother on the planet, and your child is going to be raised up with conditioning and expectations and really changing the way she or he sees himself. And that's okay. Our job as an adult is to get back to that whole self, because as we go through our childhood, from 0 to 7 is when all that foundation is formed. So your core beliefs, morality, all that stuff is physiologically formed in your brain. When we become adults, what we find most successful, happy, fulfilled people do is they have to peel away some of those layers to get to their authentic self. So when we talk about our best self, we're talking about who we truly are at the core of things. So misalignment is a really great way of visualizing what happens in our adult lives. So misalignment means who our authentic self is, who that soul is that was born perfect, and who the conditioned self is. And I like to call that self the anti-self. When those two things, when the person we are on the inside does not match the person that shows up in the world, that's when we have a misalignment. And I love this cartoon because it's basically, you see, there's two groups of people on either side of this river, and they're saying, well, how do we cross the river? And this is what happens. This is what a misalignment is in yourself. When you are when who you are inside yourself is not aligned with who you're showing to the world. And so you might be asking yourself, well, so what's the big deal? What the big deal is it causes suffering for you. Sometimes it's suffering that we don't recognize. Sometimes it's suffering that other people recognize, but we don't. And then the third scenario is we recognize that something's off, and we know something's off, and we don't know what to do about it. And we really struggle. So misalignment, that's a really important concept to keep in mind, because what we really want to achieve is alignment. So let's talk about what some of the benefits of alignment are. And I've got to just move a little bit here. Okay. So first of all, I just want to point out that it is impossible to be in 100% alignment all the time. It's not possible. We are so conditioned by all kinds of influences: our gender, the community that we're born in, our families, just our parents, our religion, all those things, our ethnicity, all those things contribute to the layers of the onion and who we are. And it's okay to have those layers. What we want to do is make sure that we have alignment. One of the things that's really important to think about is when we're out of alignment, we tend to be on automatic pilot. And that's important because I know you've all had this experience. You get in the car and you go somewhere and you get there and you're like, how the hell did I get here? Like, what? I don't remember going. I don't remember driving here. I don't remember which way I came. So that is our subconscious being in autopilot. And there have been studies done that up to 95% of our day is spent in autopilot. So the problem with operating from autopilot and not your conscious mind is that we do things out of habit, just like driving a car, riding a bike, things that you do over and over again that you don't have to think about. Well, life is not meant to be lived on automatic pilot. And there are a lot of consequences to that automatic pilot. And one of them is that some of those layers and conditioning that may have been painful, and you have developed responses to those things that cause negative consequences for you. If you're doing those things automatically, and I'm the first to tell you that that is definitely me. I had a serious problem with that. And you have to really recognize that you have these patterns and that you're on automatic pilot. And so being in alignment is really about being conscious about what's happening in your life. And it's really about being able to take a step away from what's happening and examine what's really going on. How am I feeling? How is my body reacting? Because in that moment of stepping off the hamster wheel or not being in automatic pilot, you have a chance to breathe and come into your conscious mind and make better decisions for yourself. So we don't want to be on automatic pilot all the time. One of the benefits of being in your best self is that you're not on automatic pilot and you're making better choices and decisions for yourself.
Michelle, can I ask a question?
Please, yes.
So when you talk about misalignment and you talk about these things that you're on autopilot about, what would be an example of that? Like, would it be always saying yes to things that you're just so used to saying yes to, or skipping lunch? Or, I mean, what are we talking about when we talk about these autopilot moments?
So it could be all those things that you said, absolutely. So, and that is saying yes to everything, or the inability to say no, really caring how other people think about you, comparing yourself. Well, I'm going to do this because if I don't do this, then people will think ill of me, or people won't like me, or it'll upset somebody if I don't do this. Those are the kinds of patterns that we're talking about. For me, there are times when I would respond a certain way. So if someone, especially in a work setting, if I was asked a question that I thought was aggressive or hostile, I would respond in a certain way. What I needed to learn was to take a step away from that and think about it. So you could go through your day and write a list of all the things you do in a day. And probably you would find that 8 out of 10 of those is something that you just do automatically. So, and that's an exercise that really works for clients too, is just make a list all day of what you did. And then think about how many of those things were automatic. You just do them because that's the way it's done. And then why? why is that automatic? And what is the outcome of that? So saying yes, or the inability to say no to something, really has an impact on people. Like, that accumulates over time. You get resentful, you get mistrustful, because you're just like, I don't want to do this anymore. So really looking at the impact. So it's all those things that you said, Mo, for sure. The good news about this, though, is that there's this idea called neuroplasticity, and I don't want to get too nerdy, but I love this stuff. But neuroplasticity is the brain's our ability to redirect the pathways in our brain. So what that means, and this is new science, it's been around for about 15 or 20 years. And what this new science says is that even in light of all the conditioning that we have been under, and think about kids who suffer traumas and horrible neglect and experiences as a child, we can reroute pathways in the brain so that those things don't have the same impact they had in the past, and we can create new neural pathways in the brain, which is phenomenal. It's good news, because we used to think that once you were about 24, 25 years old, your brain was static. It didn't change. The truth is, we can change the way we think, and we can change how we respond to things. And when we talked about affirmations in the beginning, affirmations is just one of the things, but there's lots of things we can do to deliberately change that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk us through a discovery of your best self. So one of the disclaimers I always have to say about this is, this step is not lockstep. There are lots of different ways to do this. This is one method. It's a 4-step method. It doesn't mean that step 1 has to be first, step 2, step 3, step 4. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go. Okay, so there's really 4 parts to this process. And the first one is listing. We're going to talk about listing gratitudes. The second one is visualizing. Visualizing is a powerful way to reshape some negative pathways in our thinking. And the third step is going to be looking at our positive attributes. And the 4th step is actually going to be creating a character or a non-linguistic, like a picture of our best self, what he or she looks like. So we're going to dive into each of those. So the first step, and what I did was, I think in the somewhere within ACR, you'll be able to download. It's like a workbook, a small workbook that has all these pages in it. So you can either do these steps on your own in a journal. I won't give you enough time. You won't have enough time to do them today, but you could also download those journal pages, or use the journal that you got from ACR. However you choose to do it, know that this is a process that is multi-step and can take you over a period of time. It is something, I started this process many years ago. I still revisit this process. So when you're thinking about gratitudes, think about all areas of your life: your family, your friends, yourself, your body, relationships, work, money. Think about all of it and really take the time. One of the keys to gratitude is making it a practice, but also when you're going through this process, sit in the emotion of it. There is some powerful science around gratitude practice. Very, very powerful. And the more that we study it, the more we're learning that it's one of those things that human beings can do that can override old pathways in our brain. So if you have a habit of, let's say, speaking negatively to yourself about your body, there are affirmations and gratitude practice that can help you reshape that. So when you do this listing of your gratitudes, you want to spend some time in the feelings that go along with that gratitude, because what this does is it enables you to open up access to your best self. And gratitude, one of the things gratitude does is it opens up our mind's ability to hear and see difficult things. So it's a really important step to start with. Not everybody can start with gratitudes, but it is a good place to start if you haven't done this process before. So that's what your blank page will look like as well. So step 2 is to visualize a time in your life when you felt on top of the world. So, interesting story. I have a client who really, really struggled with this for weeks. She said, I cannot think of a time when I was on top of the world. She didn't have that experience, or probably more accurately said, is that she couldn't access it. There was so much going on in her life at the time that she couldn't access some of those really powerful, pleasant, positive memories that she had. So that's work she does with her therapist. But for the work that we're doing, she ultimately had to skip this step, and we came back to it. And that's what I'm saying, that you don't have to do everything in this order. So visualizing is a really, really powerful tool. And as a matter of fact, Ann and I both use this every single night for 5 minutes before we go to bed. And we literally have a vision board of who and what we want to be and have in our future. And we spend 5 minutes thinking about it. Now, here's one of the challenges for people that have had some trauma in their background is we're afraid of, and I'm one of you. I'm in that boat. So we are afraid to allow ourselves the gift of hope and feeling excitement. We are so afraid of being disappointed yet again that we don't allow ourselves the freedom to visualize positivity. So when you do this part in the process, this step in the process, it's best to do this alone because it can be very emotional. And let your mind go, and let your mind go to the place where you felt amazing. And it might be painful because sometimes it might have been long ago, and you might yearn for that feeling, that person again, and it feels sad to you that you're not that person anymore, or you think you're not that person anymore. You really are. You've just got all kinds of stuff covering it that you can't get to that person that's your best self. So step 1, list those gratitudes. Step 2, visualize who that person is feeling when you're feeling on top of the world. Here are some of the questions that you can think about. Where are you when you're feeling this way? Who's around you? What's your relationship to people? Really dive into the detail. What can you smell something? Can you hear something? How did your body feel? What were you wearing? Really spend some time in that visualization, because that's who you are. That person that you tap into at that moment is who you are. And what we want to move to is getting you access to her or him again. And not only getting access, but how do I go from being in a negative state to bringing my best self forward? And so what I do in my practice a lot, and I do for myself as well, is we practice strategies for I'm not in my best self right now, but I need to be. So what are some of the things I can do to shift from where I am now to bring my best self forward? And it gets easier and easier and easier, because that word neuroplasticity is that we're engaging the brain to create new pathways. So first step, gratitude. Second step, visualization. Both really powerful. This one's, I think, the easiest step to do, identifying your positive traits. And really, if you're struggling with the first two steps, go here, because this seems to be the step that kind of pops everything open for people. And what I do with my clients is I give them this list. I actually give them an it's like got 175 traits on it, positive traits. And later when we do anti-self work, we have the negative traits, but these are the positive traits. These traits, these words actually help you tap into your best self. So if you're kind of struggling with a specific time or event when you felt on top of the world, oftentimes when you start looking, oh, am I adventurous? Well, for me, I'd be like, nope, that's not me. Am I attentive? Yes. Like, I'm really attentive to detail. Am I careful? No. So what I have to caution you on is don't get caught up in the things that you are not in this list. Get focused on the things that you are. And I love this list. In the list of the 175 words, you can literally Google them and just run through them. Don't give yourself time to think. Just check it. If it's you, check it. If it's not you, skip it. If you spend too much time ruminating over it, you're gonna miss it. You're gonna not be able to tap into that energy. So really focus on these qualities that you bring. What you will find 9 times out of 10 is when you start looking at yourself in terms of positive characteristics, what you're really building is who your best self is. You're uncovering, oh yeah, my best self is brilliant. She's so smart. Or my best self is really genuine and honest. And you probably haven't looked at yourself that way in a long time if you're just doing this work for the first time. And it can be very uplifting to start recognizing, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm really empathetic. People can really count on me to understand how they feel. So if you're struggling with the other steps, put this one first, because this is a barn door opener for a lot of people. So the last step is describe, draw, or select a character. Now, I will explain. This is important because we need a visual representation. Our brains need a picture of who it is that we're trying to be. Now, we know it's ourselves, but having a non-linguistic, a non-language, just a picture of who that person is, in the long run will help us be able to shift from who we don't want to be to how we want to show up. Like, oh, that's how I want to show up. So this was really a hard step for me. It is a hard step for a lot of people because besides being a lousy artist, I will show you over on the right-hand side of the screen. That's my original drawing, the way I could characterize my best self. I had done all the other steps and I got to this and I really struggled for weeks with putting myself as a character. And you can see it's very juvenile, very juvenile. I mean, she looks like a little girl. I like her cute little heart. I mean, I think that's sweet. But you can see I really was struggling with finding a picture of myself, of who I really felt I was. I was still seeing myself. This is even more profound now. I mean, looking at this now, I understand even better now why that picture is so juvenile. And the gun, by the way, is not that I was going to kill anybody. It's triggers. I was really struggling with being triggered, and I knew I had to get that under control at the time. And on the left-hand side of the screen are how I started doing my character traits. I did the traits like you saw when I checked off all the ones that I thought were me, but I really started to add, once I got into that, I could really put some detail to that. So don't be afraid to go farther and go deeper, because it's all really good. So in the downloads that I sent you, you will have access to that. So I want to show you. So this is me, my best self when I was little and perfect and just born. And this is how seemingly ridiculous it is. Now, that's not me. That's Jennifer Aniston. She's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. But the reason why she's a perfect representation of my best self is I don't know Jennifer. I've never met her. I don't even really like her movies that much. But there's something about her that when I think about her, she represents the best self of me. When I think about Jennifer Aniston, that helps me shift from, oh, shoot, I'm in my anti-self right now. This is not the place I want to be. I need to transition into my best self, who is characterized in my mind. It doesn't matter what y'all think or what we all think of your best self, whoever characterizes it. You have to find the person, and it could be a cartoon character. For me, what I had to do was I had to think about movie characters, and I had to think about who have I seen that represents this person that I have inside me that I'm just really struggling to put forward to the world. And Jennifer Aniston was it. So really now, I mean, even the people that are closest to me know when I talk about Jennifer, who I'm talking about. So to give you some perspective on that, I also have a character for my anti-self, who is Frank Gallagher from Shameless. So if you know that show and you know Frank Gallagher, he is bad. At least the seasons that I watched, he was really bad. But that, and I'm not like him, but when I think about who I am when I'm my anti-self, he represents that. So really, this character isn't me putting out to the world, this is me. What I'm really using that character as is a point of reference for me so that I can move out of my anti-self into my best self. It's just kind of like a visual prompt to help me get there. So this is the entire process altogether. And I put this on there just to help you have the total process so you don't have to go through the whole set of slides in order to get it. But it's just like a quick cheat sheet to help you go through all the steps. And let me just add again, you do have to kind of do the step 4. That really has to stay step 4. But the other 3 are interchangeable. And let me also add that you will do this over time. So you might start this process this week, but revisit it. So put it in a place where it's safe, keep it in a journal, come back to it over and over again. Those pages that I shared with you, I had that journal out this weekend. Because journaling, and that's a whole other workshop, but what that does is it takes you back. So me seeing those pictures again reminded me of the juvenile nature of that drawing, and it took me back, but it also shows me the growth I've made from that original drawing to where I am now. So after you discover who your best self is, and again, be patient, show yourself some compassion and some grace because it takes time, and you aren't going to land on her or him the first time you try. It will be a process. And how I look at it is we change so much that over time, you just keep changing that. It's just a fluid process that you're, continually reflecting and looking at your best self, and your best self keeps getting better. That's the good news too. So showing up daily at yourself, there are 3 things I encourage people to do all the time. Practice the pause. And I know I'm speaking to the choir because a lot of you already do this, but taking the time to step back from something and not react in automatic pilot. And this takes practice. It takes practice. You cannot do it just like that. And the good news is the more often you do it, the better you are at it. And I will tell you, somebody who's phenomenal at it is my wife. So if you have someone around you that is really good at practicing the pause, ask them to help you, because so for example, she might say to me, do you need a minute? And that's kind of my cue that, okay, I just need to step back from this for a minute and check myself. And then I can come back into the conversation or back into whatever it is that we're doing and engage in a more conscious, healthy way, not on this automatic pilot. Having positive phrases. So these change all the time. You're not going to pick one today and use it for the rest of your life. That really helps to have something that's relevant for you today. Right now, I've been on this kick lately where I say to myself every day, and when I'm kind of having a dip, I expand love, success, and abundance every day as I inspire others around me to do the same. So when I'm kind of getting in that funky way, that's something I say to myself. And I might have to say it 3 or 4 times and breathe 3 or 4 times through it. But it's a way of shifting from that anti-self to my authentic self, my best self, that Jennifer. And the last thing is put it on paper. I was not a journaler several years ago. I would consider myself a journal. I write every day. And it is the most wonderful release of it just lets you let things out. So if you practice the pause, if you have some positive phrases you say to yourself, and if you write about the things that you're getting stuck on or that are keeping you on automatic pilot or are things that you're noticing when you're your anti-self, putting them on paper makes them real, and it makes them tackleable, if that's a word. It makes them real so that you can start tackling them. It also is a way of honoring yourself. Like, wow, I really did well today. And it's important to write that down and memorialize it so that you have a way of honoring yourself and the hard work that you do. Oh my gosh. Blah, 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 blah. I haven't done a live workshop like this in a while, a couple months. So I want to thank you for anything. I want to make sure that if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I do want to say also, if you have questions after watching this and want to email me, sometimes this kind of setting isn't comfortable for people to ask questions. But another thing is, if you're watching the recording, you can email me and I will respond. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions and help you through the process. That's the work that I do.
Michelle, I've got a couple questions.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So one thing in particular that I think about when I always talk with you is this idea that, it seems like you have a mission statement, almost like a business, like
Yeah.
our person, is our business, and we need that mission statement, that this is who I am, this is what I believe,
Yeah.
so that's always something that I always think about. Whenever I leave you from one of your talks, this idea of gratitude, I was one of the very first things you talked about.
Yep.
You talked about having the feelings that are associated with the gratitude. So when you think about what you're grateful for in your life, so it could be your job, or it could be your children, or it could be, your dog, or whatever those things are that you're grateful for. Right. Can you talk a little bit about the feelings associated with them? Because what if you pop one of those little, gratitudes in your head, you say it out loud, and the feeling that you get isn't quite the feeling that you thought?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And that's why I always tell people that gratitude is a practice. So when you start, you want to really start with things that are simple. Like you said, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my job. As you progress, and I do this with clients, I just did it last week with one who was really struggling with going deeper, and I would push her. And I do this thing called the 5 whys. And it's rather annoying, but it gets to the heart. It really helps people. So when you say, I'm grateful for my family, you can ask yourself, well, why? Well, I'm grateful for my family because I feel love. Why? Well, I feel love because my sister spends time with me at night after dinner. Well, why? So really pushing yourself into that gratitude, pushing yourself with 5 whys, you could probably do 4 or 3, really encourages going deeper, because the deeper you go with that gratitude, you're more likely to access those feelings that we're talking about. Here's where you know that you are on the right path with gratitude. When something really crappy happens, and it always does, and you can find the silver lining. One thing I've learned is that things happen for us, not to us. And that's a big mind shift if you think about it. So if we think about that everything happens for us, our job then becomes, what is the lesson? What is it? Because this really sucks. I can't even imagine. I mean, think of your worst nightmare. There is something to be learned there. There is something to be grateful for. And so there's this spectrum of gratitude that you can work on. And the deeper you go, the more meaningful that gratitude is. And the more you can find it in the negative, you start, what happens, what comes back to you is you start looking at things very differently, very differently.
So we've got one question in the chat.
Sure.
Someone would like to know if you could speak a little bit more about finding alignment.
Well, so before you can be aligned, you have to know who you authentically are. So that's what we did tonight. We just scratched the surface. Because what happens over time is all these things in life happen to us, and we begin to respond to our life from that place, from being wounded, from being traumatized, from being conditioned. So I'll give you an example. So a good friend grew up my age, lesbian, didn't come out until later in life. And she really, looking back, she can see how every decision, most adult decisions she made were through that lens of not accepting herself. So to wait until she did when she came out, there was a lot of decisions that she made from that place of not being seen, not being heard, not believing that she was valued. So that's out of alignment, because your best self doesn't give two shits about what anybody else thinks, because she is perfect the way she is. He is perfect the way he is. It's the other stuff that we need to kind of weed through so that we are in alignment, so that what the world sees from us and how we carry ourselves, how we show up in the world, is in alignment with who we are on the inside. There's no disconnect from who we are on the inside to who we are on the outside. I don't know if it's perfectly achievable. I don't know anyone that says I'm in perfect alignment all the time, or that I'm always my best self. But it's a worthy goal, because you feel better. When you are being who you are, you feel better. You just feel better, and it radiates from you. You just, and I'll give you another example. I had a very traumatic childhood, very, very traumatic, abused, neglected, alcohol, mental illness. And as an adult, people would say to me, "You look mad. You look really mad." And at the time I would say, "Why? Why do you think I'm mad?" "You just mad. You sound mad." And I'd be like, "I don't know what they're talking about." Well, after going through the work that I've done and finding my best self, my best self is not mad. But the me that was showing up in the world with all that shit around her. Oh, am I not supposed to swear? Sorry.
That's okay. That's fine. That's your authentic self.
Oh, that's so true too. Those of you who know me know that's mild. But so now my 50-year-old brain just lost track of what I was saying. But So now looking back, I understand it was spewing out of me, but that was my wounded self. That wasn't my best self. So those of you at ACR that know me, you've never seen that side. You've never seen me that way. Thank God. But that's what I mean about alignment is who you truly are. And we are good. People are good, truly good. It's what happens to us and all those layers of the onion that make us adapt our behavior and move us away from our goodness. The challenge as an adult is to peel that away so that our goodness is what people see and feel. And us too, because it feels good to be good, and to really feel solid in who you are and who you show up to be in the world.
And everyone deserves to be valued.
Absolutely.
Absolutely does. And I think that is one of the mission, the values that we have at ACR Health is that, no matter, where you are in your life, that, we make sure that we see you for who you are. We meet you where you're at, and we make sure that you feel valued.
Yes.
And, because it's not about a handout, it's really about a hand up. It's about supporting each other and creating, this kind of community, because without the people that are at their best selves, and I always think this, that, everyone deserves a seat at the table, but you also deserve to bring 100% of yourself to that table. And if you're not being allowed to do that, then you're kind of doing a disservice to everyone at the table, including yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Can we just talk a little bit about value though? Because I think about life coaches sometimes, and I think that, oh man, it's like, oh God, I'm so busy in this world and I'm doing all this great stuff and, I'm doing just fine. I couldn't possibly be important enough to need a life coach. I always think that. So who is coming to a life coach? Why are you going to a life coach if you're talking to just anybody?
So this has been a mission of mine to really connect with women just like us who are living their life every day, taking care of their families, going to work, doing everything that the American dream promised them. But what happens when we turn 40, 45, 50, we realize that what we're expecting out of life is a little bit different than from the first part of our life than we want from the second part of our lives. So the women I work with are women who are in the midst of a change. They're either reinventing themselves, and there are a lot of women who want to do that, but there are a lot of women who just want to pivot. Like, you know what? I really enjoyed being a mother, but my kids are grown now. But I don't know, I really want to start my own business, or I really want to try this, or I really want to go on this hiking trip out west and for a month and leave my family behind. So pivoting or evolving. So there's something that they recognize about themselves that is not serving them well. So it's time to make a change. So the women that I work with are women who are ready for change. I don't try to convince you need to change. Like, that is not what I do in my practice. And I really focus more on mindset. So, there are life coaches that work with, your whole life in totality. Really, the work that I do is around mindset, because if you can change your thoughts, if you can get to your best self and think clearly for yourself and set some goals and put a plan of action in place, you're going to win. You're going to win. And it doesn't take long. But overcoming the fear, having an accountability partner, having someone be there saying, yeah, you said you were going to do this, and this is why you said you were going to do it. How can I help you get there? so it's really the women that I work with, and I work with almost exclusively women. I do have a male that I work with who's more of a profession. It's more of a business. We've known each other for years, and every once in a while he needs a kick in the pants. So I'm grateful to give that to him. It's kind of fun. But I work with mostly women who are in the midst of change. And this is the analogy I give. So you can picture three little children trying to see over the fence to a baseball game. Maybe some of you have seen this cartoon. And there's one child on a box and she can't see over the fence at all. And then the next child on the box is closer to the top of the fence, but she can't see over the top at all. And then there's one with a bigger box and can see clear over the top. The women that really are successful with mindset coaching or life coaching are the ones that are on the box and they can almost see over the top, and all they need me to do is hold them in place while they pull themselves up. I just hold them in place and be there for them as a support and build strategy. So it's training, support, and resources and helping them see over the fence. They already have the ability to do it. They just need me as reinforcement. The child on the box that's still got 6 feet to go before they're ever going to see over the fence, that's not, that person's just not ready yet. So those are the women that need or can benefit from mindset coaching or life coaching. The truth is, everybody benefits from it. Everybody needs a partner in life that can help them accomplish what it is they have to accomplish. And I just want to say one thing about this. The answers that women need, and this is true of men too, we have them all. We know when clients say to me, what should I do? I say to them, you know what to do. You know what to do. We know what to do. When we sit quietly and open ourselves up to whatever forces that we listen to, we know what to do, but we're scared to do it. So the answers are always inside of us. My job is to help you have the courage to take those steps and because you will be successful. I have the perfect saying. Let me find it. Universal intelligence, or whatever spiritual force that you believe in, gave you your desires with the purpose of you carrying them out. And what that means is you can't form an idea of something for yourself without the universe aligning it for you to happen. It will happen if we get out of our own damn way. And we have the audacity to do it.
Yeah. That is a brilliant end. I've got one more question though, because I know that you are that woman who had the audacity to really change your life. When things don't happen the way that you think that they are going to on a particular day.
Yep.
How do you pivot to, get back on track?
It's still hard. But I have evidence of growth that I call that EOG. So I do those things that I showed you on that one slide. So I have to practice a pause. I have to put some space between what has occurred that has caused me to feel the way I'm feeling. And I have to be able to observe it. So, and a lot of this is just mindfulness practice. And I step back from something and really spend time thinking about it. Like, what's going on, Michelle? What is going on? And also feeling it. So, if I need to cry about something, and Anne, don't say a word. If I need to cry about something, I cry. I cry. And I also write. So giving myself some space between something, having some positive things to say about myself and letting myself feel it and writing about it is usually enough to kind of bring me around. And I'll tell you, sleep, because after an emotional day or an emotional event, our bodies need time to rest and recover. That's what our brains do at night when we sleep. It's washing away and organizing a lot of that stress. So go to today, I don't know, 2:00 in the afternoon, I fell asleep for an hour and a half. That never happens. But I needed it. And so those are some of the things that I do. And they're some of the things that I work with my clients on. We have a whole set of morning routines. I have clients pick from a menu, a self-care menu. What are the things that you're going to put in your morning routine to support your growth and development in the direction that you want to go? Lots of good.
Michelle, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. This was a great hour. This was an amazing hour. I'm really happy and thrilled that we're going to be able to share this with participants and leave it as a resource on our website, and especially with information on how to contact you with any questions. We also want to thank you as an agency for your years of support, as well as, your volunteerism. Both you and your beautiful wife, Anne. And we also want to congratulate you guys on your marriage this year. It was a great way for all of us to celebrate, while we're all, kind of living in this COVID haze. And it was really, I think, for all of us, this really wonderful reminder that despite the fact that we're all kind of, on lockdown, that beautiful things did happen as well. So we just want to say thank you so much for sharing all of that and sharing your life with us. We really appreciate that. For everyone watching tonight, we also want to remind everyone that tomorrow we have Dr. Ojabelli from Kudos Weight Loss, and he's going to be talking about some really interesting stuff about erasing stigma around food and nutrition and things like that, because I think we're always kind of beating ourselves up, especially I know that I am guilty of that COVID-20. I don't even know where it came from, but well, it's really hard sometimes when you're like, oh, I'm by myself in this house. Nobody's watching, so nobody's paying attention, and it doesn't have any calories, which I found out that it kind of does. So but we're really excited to hear what he's got to say in a presentation called More is Possible. Thank you again, everyone. Have a lovely night, and don't forget to check out the Hike for Life. We appreciate your time tonight. Thanks so much.